Lolo, or is it not too
Um,
bad? Not too bad in
it's on the
Missouri.
lower side,
Okay, that's good.
but like gas out here, there's 360, I think, right now.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
dang, that's pretty rough.
Uh,
Mm. Well, how much is it in Texas, Tua?
You can get some places cheaper for 260. Did you
yeah,
say 360 or 260?
it's 360, but it goes up and down. So it sometimes we'll get to 265,
Yeah.
266, but it
Right now, I see anywhere between 260 and 280 is
Right.
kind of where I'm seeing.
Mm. Ah, nice, nice.
So it's good out there, huh?
I mean, yeah, I mean, dude, I love Texas. Honestly, I hope to never leave. But I moved a ton. I mean, this is this stint that I have right now in Texas is the longest we've stayed in one place since I graduated college. We've almost moved every 2 years.
Oh,
I mean,
how long you been in Texas?
so this is my second time. We're going on 7 years now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So before that, every year and a half, 2 years, we moved.
We're in Texas.
We're in San Antonio. San Antonio. Hey, Matafa, Malo, welcome.
Malo, Madafa.
We're gonna have some videos we'll be reacting on today, Matafa, and do some political discussions. So, looks like he's a big fan of the Mariner series. Colo, great job on that.
Malo. Yeah, I got to get back on that. And is Matafa still in?
Yeah, he's listening from. Yeah, I just pulled up the comment.
Oh,
But yeah, he's on watching on YouTube.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Are you halfway? Are you halfway on that one, Lolo? Where you at with that?
Not even halfway. There's 15 chapters, and I'm on 6.
Okay, still long way.
So we got a lot of reaction. We do a lot of we react to a lot of yours. I think we're on chapter 3, part 3.
Yes.
Is that where we are, Mussy?
Yeah.
Where are you up to now, Colo?
Chapter 6.
Chapter 6.
I gotta put chapter 6 out. I did half of it, but I was gonna do just half, but I'm right in the middle of the war between Hotpai and Vava'u, so
T4.
That's cool.
I'm getting distracted. I better get back and get this thing going.
Yeah, the
How about you, man? Holy smokes, Mussy's been right. I would have thought we had at least one loss by now. But Mussy's optimism has been correct. We had a discussion, but that's kind of cool. I was definitely.
I'm 70% there. Yeah, I'm 70% there, Tua. If they win their 6-1, then it's the expectation is definitely Big 12, and that's the minimum. Reach there and make it to the playoffs, So, hey, man. BYU is always gonna been up and down. They do good and then they lose one, but looks like things are panning out nicely.
So we have good. Yeah, we have the win early and then we kind of taper off towards the end. The one that I'm hoping we don't repeat is once we get our first loss, then we have like 3 losses in a row, and then we're just hoping for the last few ones to get bowl eligible.
Yeah.
But here's another comment. Matafa, read the book, but man, the in-depth analysis really interests me. Yep, great job. Lolo does a great job on those.
Yeah, yeah. That just like I said, man, it was a hard read, man. I had to read it with a dictionary. When I first read it, so I kept on reading it and going back to the dictionary because a lot of the words are old English and it was hard to understand. So once I finally wrapped my mind around what it meant, and it was like, this is more deep than than the words, because it's like I can't imagine how my dad read it, but I can't imagine anybody. I mean, even me myself, it was a difficult read. So, I mean, once you get the entire meaning of the words and how it puts the story together, then it's like, oh man, this is
liquid. Literal gold. I wouldn't say liquid gold, but lettered gold.
Yeah, gold. And there's so much, like when me and my brothers, we read it together, and then we talk about it, there's a lot more that it opens up to as far as what we think and feel from our experience in Tonga and our experience with the culture and with Tongan people and everything that I obviously can't fit it onto the entire story, but I'll try to do my best. So
no, you're doing good, Lola, and I think it helps people to understand the story with more clarity too. So
that's all I was hoping, man.
No, that's awesome. Well, guys, we're 5 minutes into it. Let's get through our intros here real quick, and then we'll get this party started.
Okay.
And I'm getting lost here, and here we go. Welcome, everyone, to another live digital kava stream here with the Polynesian Eyes podcast. I don't know about you guys, but it's been a long week. Glad it's Friday. It's Saturday in the Southern Hemisphere. We're excited to have Lolo from Kava University here with us today. Lolo, how's it going? How's the Zion these days?
It's good, man. It's this town's only got 6,000 people, so not too much can happen. If anything happens, it's really just amongst us. But other than that, yeah, it's daily grind, man. So so far so good.
Nah, awesome, man. Appreciate having you here. Appreciate your time, Mr. Aotearoa. What's up in your neck of the woods?
Ooh, it's nice. I'm the only one at home at the moment. Wife is currently in Tonga. Some family stuff, so she's enjoying it in Tonga. It's always good to be in the kingdom. So she's there. And then I'm here, just spent some time with the in-laws, did some dishes, tried my best to do whatever clean I can do.
Don't lie. Sarah's not gonna know she's in Tonga. She's not gonna know whether you did the dishes or not, Masi.
And it's just pretty chill. Watch some little football. Watching the Oregon and Michigan State game. Just here and there. Little rainy, but it's getting warmer here in New Zealand.
Nice.
So looking forward to the warmer weather here.
But, how cold does it get out there?
It can get pretty cold. Not snow, like sticking, but it can get pretty cold. Were you here when it's during some of the cold months?
Oh, dude, yeah, it's cold, and the one thing that caught me off guard in New Zealand is there's not a lot of indoor heating.
Yeah.
Really?
So yeah, there's not a lot of indoor heating. So I was going to Tonga, so I didn't have a lot of like sweaters and stuff. Yeah. But I was like, oh, it shouldn't be too bad because as long as I'm in the car or in the house, I should be good. But then the car was warm, but then I get into the house and then I understood why a lot of our cousins in the pictures, even indoors, they have sweaters and stuff.
Full on jackets.
Yeah. So I learned my lesson the hard way. Let me put it that way.
That cold.
Yeah, it can get pretty cold. Apparently, back in the days, they just recently changed it. But back in the days, you can build homes. Maybe it is today, but it's not mandatory. Insulation. You know how you put insulation through the walls. Right. A lot of New Zealand homes don't have that. And that's why so that's why the cold air can seep in through.
Penetrates in. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you build a newer home, yes, the newer homes are a little bit warmer and stuff, but most homes in New Zealand, there's no central heating system. So it's either you get a heater, those kind of AC stuff you can put on the side of the wall.
Unit, like a single unit.
You can put that in and stuff, but there's no central heating to kind of heat the whole house here in New Zealand.
Anywhere?
No. So we have, like, for us, we have like this gas thing that kind of shoots out heat when it does get cold, and it's just for the living room.
Is it not legal or something, or what?
Energy is not as plentiful. I'll tell you this, man. Lolo, I went to Europe. I went to France. I went to like Germany in the summer. There's not as much AC as there here as it is here in the US. Like, I was like, I was like, I might as well be in New Zealand. Like, it really is it really is interesting. Guys are having too much fun in the comments here, so I'll bring it up here real quick. First one is everyone's excited to see Lolo. Welcome. Yep, we're excited. We appreciate Lolo's time here. Masi, look at these guys. Sige comment ko ini. Hey guys, we haven't even got through the first cup yet, and everybody's already dropping bombs already. Come on. Hey, Slick Rick, Malo today. Welcome to the conversation. Yeah, same thing here with Mataafa. Mataafa here is not holding any punches. So interesting. Everybody's getting in a good mood. I think I know what video we're gonna watch first because everybody's mood here. Tui, welcome, Malo, welcome.
Malo too.
So I have this funny video for everyone here. What we got today is we're gonna do a bunch of like reactions, just kind of interesting things. We are gonna, the overlying theme is we're gonna have some conversations on the political discussion here in the US. Uncle Donald. I don't know if I want to say Auntie Kamala. We're just gonna say I like Masi's one, Kumala, or one of the comments. We're just gonna call her Kumala moving forward. Hey, looks like Slick Rick wants to say what's up. From EPA, Maria. Welcome.
Seville.
Yes. So we'll start with our first one. And hey guys, today is a good day to have comments, questions. We're gonna kind of have a little bit of fun here, but here's the first video we're gonna watch. It's pretty hilarious. It's between an Indian guy and an Egyptian guy, and we all have those. When you go to a kalapu or you're hanging out, you always have the guy that no matter what story he's told, he's gotta be a one-upper. You know what I mean? You could make up something, and this guy they can't help themselves. Right? They're always gonna be like, oh yeah, or don't worry, and they try to come up. So this is an Egyptian and a Indian one-upper. So let's take a listen here.
Oh, in India we have potholes. If you enter into one, you straight away go to multiverse. Multiverse got invented because of Indian potholes.
I don't know what butthole is, but anyway, traffic light. We have just red go, green go, yellow go. Habibi, in Egypt, the car in the roundabout stop for the car outside. It makes no sense.
In India, we don't have roundabouts.
Do you know in Egypt, you can't even have a new car. After you take from the showroom 2 seconds, it becomes 16 years old.
In India, we have unlimited lanes. If there is no lane, we create a lane.
In Egypt, we don't even wear seatbelts. You can buy t-shirts with the fake one just to avoid.
In Indian roads are like playing video games with no rules. And you know who is the boss? The cows. Elon Musk said, if you want to drive on Mars, you need to have a driving license from India. You know why? Because there are so many potholes in India. And Mars is like that.
Mars also has buttholes?
Pothole.
Oh yeah, we all have a guy like that. It doesn't matter what the story is. Always a one-upper. Always got one thing else to say. But I will say this: in third world countries, if there's only one lane, there's actually 3 rows of cars driving in there, and that's what you would expect, right?
Yeah.
You know what blew my mind in France? France is like that. And I was like, what in the world? Like, are we in like the Dominican Republic? Like, that's where I see this kind of stuff. And then I found out later, listening to another video, 45% of Paris's population are
Foreigners.
immigrants. Right? So now we start to understand that kind of behavior and what's going on. We're starting to see that starting to affect here in the US. right? There's a lot of behaviors that we wouldn't typically see as normal, like the Venezuelan gang taking over an apartment complex.
Yeah, dude, that's crazy.
Colorado, in Aurora. So, kind of interesting. But yeah, any thoughts on the video or immigration? Just kind of any general thoughts while I, queue up our next one.
How about you, Lolo? What's your thoughts?
Yeah, that's as far as immigration is concerned, that's trying to get the people who are coming in to learn. There's 4 lanes, right? Assimilate. There's only 4 cars, right? And to go in and take in an apartment complex, take over they punk the owner, and they're taking rent from the people. Yeah, that's like some straight 1920s mobster gangster stuff right there. That's long gone, right? It's supposed to be.
Wow,
And
wow,
all of a
West.
sudden, yeah. And then all of a sudden they show up and they do that. Like, you wouldn't hear of that anywhere, right? Where somebody just goes and takes over straight up with the guns going to every room and everything. And they tried that in Chicago and it didn't work because Chicago guys, they don't mess around, right? And New York and whatnot. So, but yeah, it's important, and that's why they were bringing them in slowly, just to make sure that we make sure that, first of all, you're not criminals in your country, and you can come and assimilate. This is how we run things here.
This is how you behave.
You're right. So yeah.
Nah, definitely immigration. Yeah. No, I was gonna say that the immigration is definitely the top 2 issue: economy and immigration.
Right.
So, immigration's a big deal. I'm all for we always have a lot of people who come who take the risk, and I'm always for the risk, and I'm not gonna just let them do their thing. But to me, if you get caught, you face the penalty and go back. That's just my perspective, and I don't mind immigrants doing the same thing. But at the same time, if you get caught and that's the law and you get deported, don't make other people feel sorry for yourself.
You can't blame someone else.
Yes,
yes,
that's your fault. You took the risk, and at the same time, we all know as each country, when you get people like that coming in, and especially when you're unvetted, it's not safe, and it's a burden on everyone's taxpayer money when we can use that on other things. So that's just my perspective on that, and that's why the immigration issue. I think you've seen it in Europe too. How it's getting pretty bad. It's starting to. It's like a very thin line between chaos and civility kind of happening, especially over there in Europe, because there's a mass migration from Africa and a lot of the Middle East and stuff. But we just need to be careful and be sensible, like what Lolo said, do it time and time again, because we can only pay for so much for people to come in. We have our own needs with infrastructure and to create better schools and healthcare. But yeah, that's just my thoughts there.
No, and 100%. And one of the things that really is concerning to me is FEMA now saying they don't have enough money to take care of the people in the flooding from the Hurricane Helene or whatever. Right, and you know what the reason was? $750. And they say they don't have enough money, FEMA, because they spent $650 million with the illegal immigration that came through and facilitating that. So we believe in a house of order, right? You can say that's a good thing. It would be no different than if someone is donating all his food to the neighbor, but his kids in his house are starving and dying. That just because you say, "Oh, I'm doing something good." No, there's an order. There's a sequence. There's an order to do things. I don't disagree too much with Matava here. I couldn't wait to come back to the U.S., to be honest. Right? I was like, there's a reason why America's number one. But yeah, it's just really concerning when you look at some of those things.
It's a vicious circle, right, throughout history. Because the saying, hard times make strong men, men make easy times make weak men, and then the cycle
cycle
repeats itself. And this seems like easy times to me, right? Because if it happened in every generation or every um, part of the world, right? Because then you think, remember the movie 300? Those were Spartans.
Mm.
You don't hear of them being that strong right now or anymore, or the Romans, right? The Roman Empire, right? You don't hear of them being that strong, or where is that? What happened to them? You know what I mean? And I don't know, the exact things what happened, or Alexander, there was somebody in France, or Napoleon, right? Guys
Yeah.
like that. But their empire is gone, and now it seems like the world is just easy times.
We've had a lot of prosperity and a lot of peace for a little too long.
Right, and that goes in with things that happen in the scriptures as well. Once they start prospering and making a lot of money and having things, then they start acting up, and then the cycle just goes over.
Repeats
again,
it. Yeah.
So,
Matafa has an interesting point here. We also are an empire in decline. Watch the diaspora start to flood. I've already seen a little bit of this, right? Especially with the older generation. The goal now is to go back to Tonga and retire, right? Because the cost of living here, the dangers here, and a lot of people are getting a little bit more motivated to go to Tonga. Honestly, that would be one thing I would love to do for my kids. They don't have their Tongan citizenship here, but when I take them to Tonga next, that's on the docket, right? We're going to go straight to the record keeping, the immigration or whatever it is, get their Tongan birth certificate, get their Tongan passports. So if for whatever reason they say, I want to go to Tonga and live there, they have that option as a Tongan citizen and get that dual citizenship. So that's relatively high on my priority list. Any thoughts on Matafa's comment?
No, I think Maka said the same thing. Tua, he's noticed amount of Tongans also returning back to Tonga. I've known a few too. I've only known like people when they get to that retirement age, but I'm actually finding out quite a few high profile like Tongan construction bosses that have actually gone back. Gone back to Tonga just to they want to just go back. So I think there is people are sensing the times and Western. I think Western civilization and countries, they're in this middle of this fight with this cultural war, and things are not going as well as just with their education and what made the Western civilization prosperous. It's kind of on the decline, especially with just basic knowledge. So things people a lot of their kids are getting shoved in their throats with things that parents don't want, and parents are actually losing some parental rights too for kids. So yeah, I'm not surprised Matafa, because Maka and quite a few people that I know too have actually made the move
back to Tonga, back to the islands.
Yeah. So yeah, no, good thought.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was at a Faikawa, and so Mimi.
No worries. Did you have any thoughts, Lolo, on Matafa's question here? If you know any trend or not really, or anything
about going back?
Yeah. You see any observations from your end? Looks like Renegade here is saying, yeah, he's seeing his dad going back. He seems to be shocked by it, but when things go bad, man, everybody starts looking at other options.
Yeah, I hear, the older folks, the older generation going back, but they've always had that plan. You know what I mean? But I think the new generation, it's like they could, but now most of them are here, so they have no choice but to stay, or they don't have no choice, but it wouldn't make sense for them to go back. Just to run away from something like whatever's going on today. So you gotta just
hey Jesse, appreciate the comment here. So her comment is a lot of prosperity and peace for a little too long is exactly that. Looks like her husband Matt Geiger was telling me the other night, and that's the thing, right? We all want to be successful, we all want to have an easy life, but easy life tends to lead to poor decisions sometimes. So, yes.
Well, I was gonna say it's fine having peace, but because in the scriptures it's also mentioned when cities were prosperous, but
Mhm.
also they were just still maintaining the relationship with God.
Right.
What did God do?
Right.
Uplifts and took the whole city. It's when you're prosperous and then you think that man has all the answer and you can kind of be a little bit more risky, and then you say,
Right.
I don't think I need somebody. To
Right.
me, that's the issue.
Yeah.
Then you start creating laws like uh men can uh, men can become women whenever they feel like it, and then you start having laws.
Right.
Oh, it's okay
Funky,
to have
weird laws, right?
it's okay to have a law if boy can marry boy and girl marry, all these
Right.
kind of things. So it all starts from somewhere. So having money and doing well and having wealth is fine. There's other social issues, especially when because people human behavior functions better when you know there's somebody superior than you, or has that you are a creator. Somebody created you. When you lose that knowledge, there's no purpose, and you tend to do what men think are able to do, which is not very good things.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Well,
then you
yeah,
see
go ahead, Lolo.
you see the upper class, right? You know the scripture that says we fight not against flesh and blood, but against
Yeah,
spiritual
Paul.
high places, right?
Mm,
Yeah.
And the highest places now is government. It seems like celebrity status is a high place. The high places are being perverted, or they're acting perverted now, right? The whole they're rich, they have money, and now they do whatever they want as far as the perversions just go run wild,
Out of control.
right? And then the decline starts, right?
mm,
Because they're the ones that make the rules, they're the ones that make the laws, they're the ones that make these things acceptable,
mm.
and little by little, um, it just starts killing itself off, or eating itself from the inside. So,
Yeah,
Mm.
100%. So I decided to pull this video up. Um, let me see here. This is an interesting one because there's a lot of people. It's like, oh, we have to take them in. That's how we get them out of poverty. I don't know if you guys have seen this video,
yeah,
but this guy does a fantastic demonstration of why that is a flawed idea.
right,
And one of the things that we really promote here on the podcast is you should be happy that you're bad. This is why it's important to have conversations, right?
right,
And discuss ideas. You want your bad ideas to die. You don't want to act and follow bad ideas, right? You want to have a bad idea and you want to have good friends and good family to be like, Tua, that's stupid. Don't do it, right? And then you stay, oh, yeah, you know what? That's a bad idea. Then you thinking it's a good idea and you act on it for impulse, and then you get the negative outcomes for that bad idea. Oh yeah, with the PR man
Waterburst,
of
malo,
the group, Malo. Viney Doves in the house, Malo. So yeah, let's go ahead and watch this video real quick and then just kind of have a reaction.
Some people say that mass immigration into the United States can help reduce world poverty. Is that true? Well, no, it's not. And let me show you why. This gumball represents the 1 million legal immigrants that the United States has taken every year on average since 1990. Now, who in the world deserves our humanitarian compassion? The World Bank has one measure of the desperately poor of the world. They make less than $2 a day. And how many people make less than $2 a day in the world? We'll start with Africa. In Africa alone, there are 650 million people who make less than $2 a day. 650 million. And in India, another 890 million people, desperately poor. China adds another 480 million people, making less than $2 a day. And unfortunately, the rest of Asia has a heartbreaking 810 million people who the World Bank says make less than $2 a day. And finally, there's 105 million of Latin America's population that are desperately poor. All told, the World Bank says there are 3 billion people in the world, 3 billion people who are desperately poor, making less than $2 a day. That's 3,000 gumballs. And every year, we take 1 million and suggest that we've somehow made a humanitarian difference. Of course, we don't pull our immigrants from these desperately poor populations, do we? These people are too poor, too sick, too disconnected to make it here as immigrants. We tend to pull our immigrants out of the better off poor of the world. And Mexico tends to define the type of immigrant that we bring here because the plurality of people come from Mexico. And Mexico is poor. How many people in the world live in countries that have average incomes lower than that of Mexico? And the World Bank tells us that that number is these 3 billion plus another 2.6 billion people. 5.6 billion people in the world who live in countries with average incomes below that of Mexico. That's 5,600 gumballs. And so what is it that the elites are telling us? They're telling us that when we take this 1 million immigrants, that we somehow or another are tackling world poverty. And we have to do it regardless of the effect on our unemployed, the working poor, the most vulnerable members of our society, regardless of the effect on our natural resources. Even if we went by the most radical proposals in Washington, which are to actually double our immigration to 2 million a year, which would totally overwhelm our physical, natural, and social infrastructures, we couldn't make a noticeable difference. And we may be really hurting the impoverished people of the world because the million that we do take are among the most energetic, often the better educated, certainly the most dissatisfied people that if they did not immigrate would be the agents for change to improve the lot of all the people in these countries. The true heroes in the global humanitarian field are the people in these countries who have the wherewithal to immigrate to another country, but instead stay in their countries to apply their skills to help their fellow countrymen. Unfortunately, our immigration system tends to entice these very type of people to abandon their countrymen. The impossibility of making even a dent is actually worse than it looks here. Because last year, when we took 1 million immigrants,
this is crazy.
These countries added births over deaths, 80 million more people into the impoverished population. And this year, Congress is bringing in 1 million legal immigrants. And this year, according to the United Nations, these countries are expected to add another 80 million people. And next year, you can be quite sure that Congress, unless stopped by the American voters, will bring in another 1 million immigrants. And these countries, unfortunately, will be adding another 80 million people into these impoverished nations. We could take 5 million a year, but we'd never get ahead of what's happening in these countries, not in this century. Don't you see? Immigration can never be an effective or significant way to deal with the suffering people of the world. They have to be helped where they live. 99.9% of them will never be able to immigrate to a rich country. There's no hope for that. They have to bloom where they're planted. The only place that 99.9% of these people can be helped is where they live. Let's help them there.
Very interesting. Any thoughts? Any comments?
Lolo, what's your thoughts?
The whole looking charitable, right? You're gonna look good, right? We're all gonna look good. We're gonna feel good about ourselves if we bring in 1 million people, right? And whatever year this is, he said
he definitely has no idea what's happening now, right? Like he has no concept from, let's say that was the late 90s to early 2000s.
Yeah, because he said 3 billion, and I think it's 6 or 7 billion, or closer to that now. But if only 3 million can overwhelm the entire thing, right? We already see that, right? FEMA couldn't help; they ran out of money because of the money that was used, that was saved for FEMA, right? All the emergencies was used to bring in, or at least house and feed all these, 10 to 20 million people that just came in, which means they're already overbearing.
Overwhelmed.
Yeah, as far as our country is concerned. So many people are complaining about it, and it, rightfully so.
Mm.
Just for them to look good, or for them to look good so that they get votes. And so, when it comes down to it, follow the money and follow the power. It seems
Yeah.
like that's just a money move or a power move, right? So
No, interesting. Uh, that's a good illustration of what's really going on to really help nations. Is you've got to help them within their own country, and we can take it's good to get immigrants, because I mean, if you think about the U.S. is a country of immigrants. I think of New Zealand here. It every every year it's becoming a country of immigrants too, here. But I was just thinking that it's we just have you just have to be smart, because not only with the if you get a mass amount of people who are unvetted and don't assimilate, you also affect the working class, because if you're a CEO at a company, and let's say you run a manufacturing company, or a company of putting equipments together, and you pay your worker $22 an hour. If you get an illegal immigrant, and then he just you can that can you, they can actually secure social security, right? So they get a temporary social security. They come in and they're willing to work for like $11, $8 cheaper, and you train them. That's gonna affect the people, the citizen, the middle class person that's been working for that job at a lower rate. So this has a trickle effect in all facets of an American, or whatever country you're from, if you don't be careful with immigration, because we would like to help everybody, but you can't help everybody, because fine, you don't have the money. All of us, what we can do, if there's an opportunity to help, you always help. That's what Christian and good people try to do. But as a country, you always want to make sure, in order to help somebody else, you got to make sure you can help yourself before you help someone. So that's kind of my thoughts there. And I also think of the hurricane. It kind of took my thoughts to the people of Lahaina that
Yep.
lost their homes.
What did they get? Like maybe $1,000?
No,
Maybe
$700.
$700. No, and that makes sense. And then they just recently announced another $15 billion going to Ukraine to help with the war effort there. So it's just, and then not only that, then the illegal immigrants, with paying their accommodation, their flights, wherever they want to go, it's in the thousands, and they're being taken care of. See, that's not right. It's almost like, just put it, here's a tonguing concept. It's almost like with your kainga and family, you're helping somebody from, if you're a hahake, you go help somebody from hihifo, and you give them what they need to help with their fatongia and kavenga, and you can't help your own family with their own kavenga and their responsibility. It's kind of like that same concept. You
yeah, it
gotta
just doesn't make sense, right?
Doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. So just to help with some of our tonguing viewers, why that thing is not right, and just apply it with in a scale of, like the U.S. what it's going through with the immigration. But that's my thoughts there.
Yeah, 100%. Hey, Dwayneson, malo, welcome. So his says, to me, it's the principle of give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day. Teach a man to fish, he'll eat for a lifetime. See, and it's even worse than that, in my opinion. There's not even a fish to be given. Right? It's like, it's overwhelming. It's actually like, it's destructive. What comes to my mind when I'm listening to this, because our world has become unrecognizable, right? Like, I used to be able to be like, oh, they're just doing it. It's just a misunderstanding of how they view the world, right? They just don't understand. They're quote unquote trying to be nice, and trying to be helpful. But I no longer, I can't accept that anymore, because the what's being said and what's being done, when you're making an honest mistake, you correct yourself when you feel like, oh, I make a mistake. I am like, no, they're doing this on purpose. There's a reason why they're doing, and I now go by this saying: the outcome is the reason for what they're doing. Like, for example, they want to overrun the system, right? They want the American people to suffer. They want the chaos. This is no longer of, oh, they're just stupid politicians. They don't know what is damaging the country. It's like, no. We're well beyond that point. They know what they're doing, and it's on purpose. And you don't have to ask yourself, why are they doing this? No, just look at the outcome. Look at the outcome and the impact, and that'll tell you why they're doing it, because that's what they want. So this is why I'm getting more and more into the thinking. We can no longer really blame the politicians anymore. We will get what we deserve, because they're doing it right in front of your face, and they're saying, "Oh, we're just trying to be helpful." It's like, no. You know what they're doing, and if you're voting for it, you also want that, right? And that's where I'm heading towards right now, in my personal opinion, because it is getting very difficult for me personally to give benefit of the doubt anymore. I think the lines have become relatively clear now on which side of the fence you're on. I don't know. That's kind of my thoughts right now on the immigration. This is on purpose. It's intended. You know, we look at, oh, they didn't have any money. The whole point is to not have any money for the American people, right? That's why they did it. That's why they spent that money. I don't know. Any thoughts on that?
It's so that's for you to, so say it is for the getting illegal immigrants in here and allowing them to vote, which in some cities they've already started to allow them to vote in, local government, and that's the plan, right? That's the plan, and they're almost halfway to replacing the black vote, right? So they're going to keep on allowing this to happen. The thirst for power, for you to want to, you're willing to destroy your own country just so that you can have the power, if that's the case, the vote, right? That just blows my mind how anybody could think or want that, right? The greatest country in the world, the greatest, military, greatest economy, and all that, and you're willing to sacrifice that just so that you can vote yourself in, to have power, right? And it's obvious that the influences to other countries and selling influences to other countries and them getting together up at the top is blows my mind, because how can you, right? How can you do this just so that you can get power? And it's blinding, and it seems extremely intoxicating to where the point where they don't care.
Yeah,
they do not care.
That's where they are right now.
Matter, yeah.
They can do it right in. Before they used to be like, oh fuck, it's embarrassing. Let's. Now they're like, who cares? Yeah. They've gotten so comfortable with the idea, or in your words, intoxicated with the power. Right. It doesn't matter anymore as long as I get what I want. And you know what's funny, when you were saying that, Lolo, where have we seen this before? Well, there's a reason why the Lord said the Book of Mormon was written for our days, because this is exactly what the Nephites did to themselves. Right. This is exactly what they did. This is why Captain Moroni came with the standard of liberty and said, Siana, you're either going to line up with me and fight, or I'm just going to chop you down myself. Right? Because at some point lines have to be drawn at some point. Now, I'm not advocating for that, but there has to be a point where we say you're voting for this, therefore you are in favor of that. You cannot say, oh, I think they're just confused. No. You are seeing what their actions are and what the outcome is, and you're saying, I'm giving them my vote, so you're saying that that's okay. But we're living in very crazy times. What did the Lord also say? What's the whole point of a secret combination? Power and money. That's all it comes down to. And how these guys are behaving, they don't care about America. They don't care about the American citizen. And this is also true in Europe, right? Europe will sacrifice their people. The leaders in Europe, they only care about one thing: power and money. That's the decisions. That's why that saying is follow the money, because that'll follow where he goes. And what usually money represents? Power. So any other kind of comments before we go to the next video?
It's pretty clear. Pretty good.
The crazy thing about this is there are people that I thought were intelligent enough to recognize it, right? Yeah. But at the same time, the scriptures tell you that even the elect are going to be deceived at some point. You know, they're good people because they're good people. But it's crazy that they're with that, stuck on the emotional, attachment, without, standing back and thinking just a little bit. Like, let's think about, like, look at this and look where it's been, look where it is, and look where it's going. Like, let's do that. But they're so emotionally attached to the way things sound, and that's kind of why the same way I think I see Hawaii, as far as them being like 98% Democrat, right? They complain about everything that's going on in
everything,
Hawaii, but they don't realize that these people sound like you guys, but the record shows that they're not doing what you guys want them to do. So,
good
all
point.
the aloha and everything, right? They all know the language.
So when you're a bunch of sheep hanging out, and you notice every time one sheep goes with that other sheep, one goes missing, and it's always the other one and not this one, you should probably at some point say, let's check this guy. I don't think he's a sheep. I think this guy's a wolf.
Yeah. Right.
Every time he walks off with someone, he comes back and he goes, oh, the wolves ate pita. Oh, Sione, let's go for a walk. He come back. Oh, the wolves ate Sione. And he was like, Siana, at some point, we all have to say,
right.
I think this guy's, he's saying he's a sheep. He's buying like a sheep. He's pretending like he's eating the grass. But like the Lord said, he didn't say by the hairstyle or the color of their skin or the sound of their voice, by the fruits. And the fruits say, if you go with this guy, wolves are going to eat you. So in other words, he's a wolf. He may even be actually a sheep, right? But he has a wolf heart and a wolf mind because he's leading others to the wolves. So even if he doesn't, they don't have to be quote unquote be actual wolves, but the way they behave is that way. Anyways, here's the next one. Here's the next video. This one, I think everybody's going to enjoy. It definitely I don't know if you guys seen this video, but it is doing the rounds on social media. It cracks me up because I've seen this literally in this prime example, but also in other ways how people behave. And this is similar to what we're talking about, right?
Right.
You say something, you say you believe in one thing, but when we sit back and we pay attention to your actions, the actions and the words aren't matching. But this is a good one. Let's watch Kulisi here and react. But this is pretty hilarious.
Kainga lotu mo I kau whagaafe ma o talitali lele ki mo tolu. Ho mo lava mai ki e tau hula e whiawhini. Ma o whiawhia lahi ke sio atu ki mo ngai fofonga. Ma alo au pito ho mo lava mai. Ki mua apea toki hoko atu. Ko kole ke mo sio takai, ke mo wakai oku iahane I hani, oku I kai ke mo tui so te hina. Ka taki whakamole mole. Ka koeni mau loto ke tauhi ke molumalu. Mo whakalau maalie, e tau malai peke poloni. Ko mo tolu, o ko mo tui ha sote o ku lanu kehe. Kole atu whakamole mole, ka mo hu ki tua, ke mo lava sio mai me tua ki he hulu hulu. Kina ngalo e tau eiki ke tau sote hina. Sai, tau hoko atu lewa, ke tau whakawhiewhia, whakalau maalie. Kole ani ki he DJ ke toi tā mai foi fasi, ke tau whiewhia. Malo. DJ? I wanna have sex on the beach. Come on, move your body. Sex
beach.
Tu koe hula ia kata walu inu kawa.
That is so true, not just for dances, because I have literally seen that scenario in Tongan dances, but the whole situation, right? This is the same with our politics. I feel like our politics and even our behavior across the board, right? Whether it's in family, politics, social things, like that to me is a description of how I feel the world is right now. But any thoughts, Masi? And then we'll go to Lolo here.
Just a quick question, and maybe both of your experience. Has this happened in other churches, or is it only LDS churches that they've done it before?
I've only seen this in LDS churches, in my opinion.
Okay.
I don't see a lot of other churches do a lot of dances though.
For the youth,
so, for like an activity. Usually when it's a dance, it's other things.
It's other things, yeah.
No, it's Pakimortoi.
Yeah. No, that's what I think. That's those are the things that definitely, I guess, since we're talking about the Tongan LDS, that they can definitely improve. To me, they have these certain standards that they feel like it's self-righteous, but it's not accomplishing the goal to invite others. Like having a shirt doesn't mean if they're, if they're gonna think. To me, as long as they come in and they're enjoying mingling, that's good. But we all know there's some people with positions in the church that they have this certain standards, and all of this is they don't have white shirts and a tie. They can't participate in certain activities. But yeah, I mean, that is just funny, and maybe that's the reason why maybe some people in Tonga just say, I ain't gonna join the LDS church. There's no way, Jose, when they see stuff like that. But yeah, it's funny.
Yahweh. Any thoughts, Lolo?
I thought the weirdest thing after growing up like that was when I went to a Palangi function, and it was nothing like that. It was jeans, it was t-shirts, it was whatever. And I thought, why are these Palangis not wearing
because they're sinners. They're sinners.
And that's what you would think, right? If you were to judge it that way. But then you realize, man, are we being too serious about this? Because, the state president is here and everything. But at the same time, right, ironically, they're playing this song, right? They're trying to keep it holy or whatever they're trying to do with the white shirts, but they play this song. And I've seen that. That is was so common growing up. Because our generation, once we grew up and knew what the words were, we're like, dang, they're playing this song. That's crazy. And a lot of songs. There's a lot of songs.
There's a lot of them, and there's a lot of them.
Right.
So that's hilarious.
Yeah.
No, and I think that is because the reality is, as human beings, right, we are full of contradictions. We are full of contradictions, right? Just our behavior. Like, we like to think that we're quote unquote logical and we always behave. We're full of contradictions, but our whole point in life is try to, as we go through the journey of learning spiritual temporal knowledge, is to try and resolve those contradictions. And there's just some that it's just like, man, I thought I had problems, but then I see stuff like this. I'm like, oh, I guess hopefully I'm not that bad, because what's obvious to one is not obvious to another. But I don't know. I thought he did a great job in like capturing like the irony and just like, you know what, this is 100% accurate in my opinion.
Right.
Hopefully we've improved since then. But is it still a thing today?
Dude, I would not be surprised if this is still a thing today. I mean, I see it in other parts of the church, in certain behavior, right? In the church to this day, and it'll probably never go away. That's what I'm saying. We're just kind of full of contradictions sometimes. But
I don't even think it's intentional. I don't think that was.
No, it's not always intentional. No,
I think they had the right intentions, but I think it's more of an education thing. Like, all right, let's look at see how everybody's. Oh, they don't mind it as much. Oh, only right? Because even in church, not all, not everybody wears. When I went to Palangi stuff, not everybody wears a white shirt and tie.
Mm.
As far as the Palangi. So to me, I just compared it to them. Like, oh, well, they brought the church to us, and so I don't know why we're being over, right?
Yeah.
And I get the loyalty to the righteousness and the loyalty to it, but like, let's just step back and relax real quick, guys. I mean, if they're not as hardcore about it, maybe we should just chill out a little bit. But I do understand the loyalty part. So
that was cool.
Let's see here. Let's the comments. I'm already falling behind, guys. I'm gonna skim through. Let's see here. Wada Bear's position is sex on the beach is a type of drink. But even in that point, Wada Bears, well, what's the drink named after? It's gonna. I mean, just because we added a thin layer in between, oh, it's named after a drink. Well, what the drink is named after? And I'll tell you right now, when they hear those words, nobody is thinking about a drink, unless you're wearing a white shirt. If you're wearing a white shirt, apparently your thoughts are protected. The Holy Ghost protects you. There's a barrier.
The Holy Ghost only helps LDS people only.
Oh, Yahweh. Clyde Moore says that's why Clyde Moore. He doesn't have to worry about that. Silky, the Seventh-day Adventists have figured out the solution. Oh, Yahweh. Welcome. Tongan style. Malo Pito Kautama. Shout out to Kawa University from Bountiful, Utah. Maria Ofato. Malo. See, look at the public relations guy, Masi, for the Kalapu over here's response.
I will say later.
Oh my goodness. Oh man. That is too much, man. That is too much.
That's nice.
It looks like welcome, Moy. So from EPA, we got a couple people from EPA today. Seems like East Palo Alto is very active.
East Palo Alto in the building.
Yes, Malo. We watched some clips from what was the name of that podcast, Masi, that we watched that had the two dudes, and they were all like, "Oh, these guys are like hi," but the two Polynesian guys, they were pretty funny.
Yeah, I forgot, but yeah, they were just talking about people not really saying hi to each other, and
exactly,
they come
those guys.
Yeah. Looks like Moy is not a. I was gonna say Moy. Looks like Moy is not a fan of your Kansas City flag behind you, Lolo.
Hey.
You say go Niners,
I don't know. Before we get to Clyde Moore's comment here, I don't know, man. I think the YouTube videos of the refs getting behind the Chiefs is starting to penetrate my thinking now. Lolo, am I just suffering from propaganda or what? But
just pray about it. Go with the spirit, like we do.
Just wear a white shirt when I'm watching the game.
Wear a white shirt so you know what's going on.
Yeah, this is a fair point, Clyde Moore. It is true. Life is that of a contradiction, but I'm assuming that's what you're saying. Are you saying contraction for real? So, oh Yahweh, that's what I'm saying. But oh Yahweh, si loto mama kau tama, kaya sa iya kau tama in my philosophy. My philosophies are causing issues in the around the Kumete, guys. Hey, Masi, guys are interested in your beverage. They're saying it's a Palangi kava bowl, or what is that?
No, it's a ginger beer from Hobbiton.
Oh Yahweh! So but the hobbits stop by the house every once in a while, or
yeah, the hobbits they live.
Was it Schmeagol or?
Oh yeah,
you live down the road street, here in New Zealand. I will drive, but it's just it's my water bottle. But this is when I went to go check out the Menehunes in Hobbiton.
That's why Queen Salote changed the name of to New Toa. Shit.
Oh yeah.
Hey, here's another one. Now, granted, guys, I think everyone's it's pretty clear where we kind of stand on the political arena, but facts are facts, right? Let's listen in on this. And this is Kumala, Auntie Kumala's first, let's say, stepping stone in politics. Mr. Brown from California.
Oh,
so
yeah, I heard about
let's see what his thoughts are on Kumala here.
Here is the real Judge Joe Brown being interviewed. Listen up. Oprah Winfrey at the DNC. Who is Kamala Harris?
She's a fraud. She is an image that's been carefully crafted. And you can start with what she is. She has a certain paint job, but that doesn't make her what she claims. And we have somebody that has a fabricated reality. I was just mentioning it a minute or two ago. She talks about she was that child on the bus integrating the schools. And if this was in California, I don't get it, because at that point I was a school teacher in LA, California, and we didn't have segregated schools. When she got in kindergarten, first I was a playground director with the city school system. We didn't have segregated schools in the entirety of California. Both of my parents were school teachers. What they did is they shuffled the teachers around, but you went to school in the neighborhood. So I don't know where that study came in. So smoking dope in the dorm rooms, listening to Tupac. He was 11 years old when she was in the dorm, and when he cut his first single of release, he was 21, and she was a prosecutor in Alameda County, California. So
that was a story.
Where do we go with somebody that will tell those things? Yes.
And that was a story she told the show on the foundation. So when she goes to Howard, she graduates, becomes a lawyer, and becomes a DA.
I mean, he just goes over and over. And I mean, at some point, what would even someone full of contradiction, how should they react to this? Like, any thoughts on that?
My question is how, like with Joe Brown, like you'll have people bring up the past because they were there, or bring up the offset in time and her years and Tupac's years and whatever, right? Like those people that were cheering behind her while she was walking, do you think they even care about any of that stuff? And what is it that makes them so attached that they won't even stop to think, oh, this makes sense, that makes... I mean, you see a lot of people leave, and be like, oh, once they started, because every single one that starts investigating Donald Trump, investigating her and, the things that they say, then they realize, oh, we were lied to, we were blind, we were emotional. There's so many reasons why they actually leave. But look how many people aren't stopping to think. They aren't stopping to recognize Joe Brown or anything. They don't care.
Yeah.
They don't care. There's so many of them that don't care. So what is it?
Well, see, and that's where I mentioned earlier, like, I'm getting to the point where I can't rely on benefit of the doubt. I have to look at the outcome and say that is by design. So people like you're describing, who are just cheering, and they're not going to look. They don't want to find out what they think. That they're pretty sure if they were to look, they're going to see something that they don't want to see. So you know what they would prefer? Not to look. And I'll give you a prime example. Israel is under slavery for 400 years, right? They're praying to God to rescue them, to rescue them, to rescue them. God sends Moses, and then Moses goes, guys, you guys want to see God? You've been praying for God. So Moses says, come with me. I'm going to take you to God.
Mount Sinai.
Mount Sinai. And as they're climbing up to go to God, all of Israel gets scared, and you know what they say? We're gonna stay down here, Moses. You go up and talk to God. So it is by design that they don't want to know these things, right? That's what I'm saying. There comes a point where you can give someone benefit of the doubt, and when you get to the point where you're like, dude, you can clearly go take a look for yourself, and you're not willing to go look, it's because you don't want to know the truth. You don't want to know, in my opinion. That's my opinion. I could be wrong, but any kind of thoughts out there? Any guys, what do you guys think?
I'm just thinking that quite a few people have already told themselves that they don't like Trump, and that it kind of comes along with your point, Dua, that they already don't like Trump, and they're just gonna keep it that way, and they don't want to investigate or look for their own candidate, the other choice than Trump, who is very fake. When I think of Kamala, and this is just further evidence from the Brown guy, because obviously he was critical on providing the stepping stones for her to get involved in politics, to get her name out there, and obviously becoming the attorney general for California. So we all know what she was doing in order to do that. Being with the Brown guy, so he knows the inside stories. So I just see Kamala when he says that she's fake. She's absolutely fake, just like the fake people when you're around that Hollywood, and their looks are fake, their attitude is fake. That is
Yep.
Kamala all over, and she's just doing it just to make it through. And if she wins, hey, either we didn't do enough to have more election integrity because Trump already gave us many times counsel and told us, hey, the 2020 was funky. We all know it was funky. Nothing really happened, and it comes to 2024, and let's just say they able to pull it off. Oh well, you got to live through the consequence, and then it is what it is, and then that's probably like the whole cycle, like kind of like what Lola was talking about. Maybe it just things have to happen, and when we go through those cycles, tough and maybe lives lost is gonna happen, and that's what happens when you don't do anything to have intervention. So it's just part of the life. The sad thing is hopefully when it does happen that let's just say you still have a country, still have a nation. That's the unpredictability, because we kind of talked about it too. When you have instability and chaos, it doesn't mean that you're gonna come back and have the same situation what you had before. It could mean you could fragment of certain parts of the country, and who knows, other things can happen. But it is unpredictable, the future, when you have instability that happens. But love the stability that happens throughout many, because America is still relatively young. Other empires that's lasted so long, um, you know, love the stability happens is because of intervention, little interventions here and there to kind of maintain it. So yeah, we shall see. We shall see. 2024 is literally a month or 3 weeks away. So we don't have long to find out.
No. Any thoughts? Any additional thoughts there, Lolo? Before we go to the next one, and it's related. This next video is a prime example of the issue that you were sharing, but also want to get to Moe here. I think it's fair. He's has a different perspective than ours, but if you have a comment there, Lolo, if not, we'll jump to Moe here.
Well, I was just thinking about the Marvel universe, how Thanos was the bad guy. We were all for the Avengers and all the Guardians of the Galaxy and all, right? Those are the good guys, right? And Thanos, he was the bad guy because he wanted to get all the rings and then wipe out half of existence. But there are people that think that he had a good point. Like, yeah, we're running out of resources, right? Which is leftist, ideology anyway. That we're using up too many resources, and yeah, he was right. There's some people who thought like that, at the expense of everybody's freedom and liberties. At the expense of that, we got to cut everything in half so that because it sounds like it's a good idea to them, right? and they think that it's a very noble cause. And then you rewind that all the way into the pre-existence, right? He convinced a third of the host of heaven that his idea was a good idea, and a third of them followed him. So there are people that think that it's a good idea. So with the left or the Democrat Party now and Kamala, I think they truly, honestly think, from what it sounds like, that it's a good idea at the expense of everybody's freedoms and liberties, at the expense of safety and security, at the expense of the economy and trades around the world and whatnot. So it's interesting to see that perhaps some of them leaked in from the pre-existence, thinking that those ideas, even though it sacrifices a lot of the liberties and freedoms and agencies of people, that it's for a good cause, right? It's noble. Let's all put on masks and shut down businesses and churches and all that because it's a good idea. You know what I mean?
See,
really,
yeah, my challenge with that though, Lolo, before we go to Moe's comment here, is they fail the test of sincerity, in my opinion, to see if they really believe it's a good idea. If I really believe something's a good idea, like truly believe it, I apply it. Right? And a lot of these people, if you really believe that human beings are a cancer on society, right? Then you know what you should do? Remove the cancer that you have control over, which is yourself. Right? It's like when shoot, what's the Indian guy? Not Vivek, the older one, Dinesh. He was at like Middlebury, one of those really expensive small private universities in the kind of like the East, and the student was up there and was like, "Oh my gosh, we've oppressed the African Americans. We owe them reparations. They can't get education." And then Dinesh goes, "You know what? If you really believe that, give up your attendance here and pay the tuition for another student of a minority." Right? Because if you really believe that, if you really believe that you, by being you, have robbed someone else and you're stealing an opportunity from someone else, I would still disagree with you. But if you at least sacrificed your position, your money, and your influence, I'd be like, I don't agree with you, but I can at least say what you said. You're sincere. It's still a crazy idea, but I can at least say you're sincere. Kamala Harris doesn't believe anything that she says, because if she did, she wouldn't be doing what she's doing. She wouldn't have voted for what she voted. She wouldn't behave the way she behaved. Just look at her laughing about smoking marijuana and hanging out. And yet she threw African-American males into jail because they were doing that.
Yeah.
Right? And so we're full of contradictions, but we cannot become hypocrites. And that's when you become a hypocrite. We're full of contradictions, as in sometimes, we're learning, we're trying to figure things out, we're trying to improve.
Right.
And so that's the biggest concern I have there. But what are our thoughts on this? This is a very common perspective on Trump. I can see why people have that perception, right? Because let's use Elon Musk, right? Until Elon Musk came like in favor of Trump, Trump was like hammering him.
Right.
Elon this, Elon. Now all of a sudden they're best friends. So I can see how you can have that perception, but how do we justify our perspective? Because Mo is asking a pretty fair
a fair question
here. Yeah. Sure. So how do we say Kamala's fake? What's the difference between, and let's concede the point to Mo, let's say that Trump is fake. What's the difference between Kamala fake and Trump fake? Any thoughts on that?
I think that the celebration that they do, after a touchdown or after a good play. I think that's what more Trump is he loves to celebrate things, celebrate his successes, celebrate how good he is, and whoever it is he's talking trash to, no matter what. But his game is real, and if we're judging the if by their fruits we can know them, then just judge him by his fruits from the past 50 years. Who he's helped, who he's been around, and what he's done, and they talk about all his failures and bankruptcies and everything, but he kept going, which is what business people do. We may fail, but we're going to keep going. And now he's a successful person. You look at his kids; they're all successful. They're all, good conservative people. So as far as Kamala, her track record shows that she intentionally lies, right, to get favor, to gain favor from whoever, and there's a track record of that. So as far as being fake and whether Trump, I think it's the competition thing. Yeah, yeah, he'll talk trash during the debates to everybody, but eventually, once they come back, yeah, we're friends now. We're on the same team now. As long as you're on his team, you're good. So um, that's how I view it. Like Kamala Harris is a liar, liar, liar. Lies about everything. Where Trump, yeah, he may say crazy. He's been saying crazy everything ever since he got here. But the reason why I liked him when I first heard him speak in 2015 is because he sounds exactly like the people I'm around, and he has a good track record, family, business, all of that. He came and he applied everything he knows into the country. It worked, and then those guys came in, and then now look. So the evidence is already there. So to continue to hate him just to hate him is, I think, is a mistake.
Yeah. Okay, Masi.
Nah, good question, Moy. Fair question. My thoughts on Trump is he is the captain of a football team that people, if you support him, he's gonna support you back. I find him very loyal in a way that whoever's on his team, he's gonna do everything he can to help. And then when you're on his team, he's it's almost like a two-way street. He's gonna expect everything to help you. So obviously, people who used to be on his team and then obviously have gone out, and then of course they're gonna go after him. Trump's reaction, a typical politician would most likely ignore, but Trump is always on offense, playing offense. He's gonna go after you too. So, Elon Musk wasn't so friendly to Trump. So what did Trump do? He went on offense on Elon, right? On Elon Musk. And then Elon Musk, he's probably done his homework. He's like, dude, Kamala, she is real bad news. She's like the constant line that she used to do this and she's for that, and she never did it with her action and in her voting. He even Elon Musk, a billionaire, understood that okay, this person's not for it. And then what really kind of took Trump over the kind of like didn't make anyone question like this guy is a billionaire, he doesn't have to do this, but he took a shot in the head and he still got up. When he says he's tough, he still got up. He didn't care if he was gonna get shot again. Still got up to just tell his supporters because he is the captain of the team, and the crowd was his teammates in a sense. I'm just comparing with in a sports, just letting them know, hey, I'm injured, but I'm not dead. I'm not done. And then he kind of went off, just to keep fighting, finish the game if he doesn't make it or whatever, saying the whole fight. So you can't question Trump when he's saying that he is in it to win it, that nothing's gonna stop him. That's an perfect example and illustration just to depict Trump that he's not afraid. He's willing to take violence, bullet, whatever it may be. If I compare that to Kamala or Biden, if something happened like that, I can't see them. It's literally Secret Service or security cover them, take them immediately straight to the car and protect them and take them to the hospital. And then maybe after 2 weeks, then they'll come back out and say how they were attacked or whatever. But after what Trump went the next week, the very next week or day, he's already saying, "I'm gonna be at the convention. I'm gonna be there." No, that's like to me you can't fake that. Trump is not. That's you. That to me, that's the difference. That's real. He's a warrior. He knows he's in a position to lead a team to prosperity, and Kamala hasn't shown any of that. That's why if you call Trump fake, I can understand because he's fighting other people. But okay, that's your fake. But who's faker? Kamala is faker. It's almost like she is really, really worse than Trump. So that's why I go with Trump. So
okay. I think the best way for me to describe my position is the WWE, right? You have to be able to understand that the storyline is made up, right? That's acting.
Right.
But when a guy climbs the ladder and jumps from the top into the ring, the ring, that's real, right? Like you could have the storyline and everything. Everybody knows, like, oh yeah, we're acting. But that jump is legit. That guy could kill himself or hurt himself. There's nothing fake about that. And that's what you have to understand with Trump is there is that if Trump wasn't a fighter like we're describing here, he wouldn't survive. The only reason why Trump hasn't been defeated or destroyed is because of his mentality and his approach, right? And to me, the ultimate test is this: Trump or Kamala. They're everything equal. Which one will you say is your friend? And if they give up what they're holding and they know if they give up something and that'll lead to your death, who would you pick in fighting for you to the very end to protect your life? I'm telling you right now, anyone who's honest to themselves would not pick Kamala. Would not pick Kamala, right? Everyone would say, hey, if Trump thinks I'm his friend, kind of like you were mentioning earlier, that to me is the ultimate fake test. Because if you both say you're my friend, right, and you think they're both fake, well, which one's more fake? Trump as your friend or Kamala as your friend, deciding whether you live or die being beat up by terrorists? I don't know of a single person who says, Kamala's going to protect me. Kamala's going to stick to me with the end. No one in their right mind would do that. So to me, in the ultimate litmus test, it's not even close. Trump wins by a mile, in my opinion. In regards to our discussion on, not willing to accept the facts and be in denial, right? And kind of give the culpable deniability, meaning, oh, I can always use that backdoor excuse. Oh, I didn't know, right? How these guys behave after they quote unquote fact checked JD Vance, how the moderators behave here is how I feel a lot of people who aren't willing to accept the truth behave towards Uncle Donald, in my opinion. And we'll watch it right here.
Our viewers, Springfield, Ohio does have a large number of Haitian migrants who have legal status, temporary protected status.
Well, Margaret, but
thank you, Senator. We have so much to get to.
Margaret, I think it's important because
we're going to turn out of the economy. Thank
Margaret,
you.
the rules
their
were that
faces.
you guys weren't going to fact check, and since you're fact checking me, I think it's important to say what's actually going on. So there's an application called the CBP One app, where you can go on as an illegal migrant, apply for asylum or apply for parole, and be granted legal status at the wave of a Kamala Harris open border wand. That is not a person coming in, applying for a green card and waiting for 10 years. That is the facilitation of illegal immigration, Margaret, by our own leadership.
Thank you, Senator, for describing the legal process. We have so much to get to, Senator.
Those laws have been on the books since 1990.
Thank you, gentlemen.
The
we want to have
One app has not been on the books since 1990. It's something
that. Yeah.
The audience can't hear you because your mics are cut. We have so much we want to get to. Thank you for explaining the legal process.
That's how I feel people are behaving. Right. And they aren't willing, like the moderators. Oh, I don't want to hear the truth. Let's just go on to the next thing. We got to move on. Right. When in reality, they just don't want to hear the truth sometimes. And that's why, for me, we're getting to the point that if you don't know, there's a high probability it's not because you're sincere, it's because you don't want to know, in my opinion. Any thoughts on that?
No, I was just thinking if the moderator, she had so much to go through, don't interject then. Just say next question. She wanted to give the last hit and move on. It's just so funny. But this is another thing, Tua. This is where I think it's kind of been shared around. I think Ben Carson shared it. Where this is a good test of the power of the mainstream media on controlling the mind. If they win this election, you know what's going to be even worse. They're going to do something even crazier. Because if they can convince enough people to feel like Kamala is this person, when her entire political career has been very lefty, voting everything with mass immigration, letting criminals kind of get lesser penalties or kind of stay in the community. If they were able to change that person to be presidential and win, that's crazy. And if we,
It is.
American people, like Trump always say, he always has the faith that American people will make the right choice and fight for what is right. If we're able to win with Trump winning, that is a big indicator of the media still does not control the majority of minds of the American people. So that's another test with this election too, because we all know the mainstream media who their person is for the president. So yeah.
No, 100%. Lolo, any thoughts?
The thing with playing fair in politics, or I guess in anything, is the fact that you can't punch the ref. You know what I mean? Because you'll automatically look like the bad guy. But it's not fair. I mean, I go in thinking that it's not fair, even though sometimes I'll give credit to, I gave credit to Kamala for, oh, that sounds good, or even when the Obamas went up to speak at the convention, I was like, dang, they sound good. They sounded good, right?
Yeah.
Like, at least let it be that. But for the mainstream media to jump in and start refereeing, right? They talk about the refs being on the Kansas City Chiefs side, but really, like, the refs are now calling the game for the other side, and they have been for a long time. And I think that's the most frustrating part is that, dang, the refs are in on it too. You know what I mean? So that's what I see with any of the news networks, the past news networks that ran the debates. That's what it seemed like. It was always a 3-on-1 type thing, and the refs were on their side. So,
yeah. Well, and that's the thing is, for me personally, Donald Trump has kind of changed that perspective, right? Before, you wouldn't dare say anything to the media, right? What Donald Trump has shown is, guys, the ref, everyone says you can't swing at the ref and it's always bad for you if you assume the ref is impartial, right?
Right.
Donald Trump has come is he's like, hey guys, I know for a fact these refs are getting paid and they're rigged against us. And I know you guys don't like it, but in order to win, I have to fight the ref and the other team.
Right.
I mean, I've played when I was at the high school I went to for football. We were told all the time, you can't just beat the other team. You have to beat the ref as well. And there's ways to do that. You behave in a way to take away the ref's power. And in this case, it is what Donald Trump is doing is discrediting the mainstream media as much as possible. And the American people are seeing that. And rightfully so, because if a referee is, taking his orders and paycheck under the table for bad reasons, then they should be exposed and they should be questioned. And the people should say, hey, you know what, Uncle Donald, I think you might be onto something. Take on the ref and it's free game, right? I don't know. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I was gonna think probably the number 2 most famous phrase that's gonna live on well after Trump's days are over on this earth is fake news. Other than "Make America Great," MAGA is number 2 most popular. It could be number 1. Fake news.
Right.
Since he's coined that term, you see that everywhere with people using that when they debate online or whatever in podcasts. Like, dude, that's fake news. And that started because of Trump. So just to go on with his impact on, like what you're saying, Tua, like creating another, like, hey, this is not an even match now. We've got to fight from all sides, and he's used the language to make it possible for people to understand that, hey, the media is not impartial here. They're gonna give you the harder questions and then fact check you and then give the other person and then no fact checking. But Trump saying the whole fake news and the media is the enemy of the state of the people. So Trump, all these like phrases is gonna live on well after Trump. So it's pretty.
Yeah, and you know what's crazy? I was not a Trump fan when he first came. right? I had some serious doubts because as conservatives, we do a really good job at picking people that in the end turn on us, whether it's Supreme Court justices or politicians. And I was like, oh, great. We already have a bunch of rhinos everywhere. Now we're going to bring in a guy who was a Democrat, right? A publicly, and I was just like, oh, great. I'm not on board with this, And so I was more of a I was a Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz was my preferred option, right? But I'll tell you this: the more I just watched, this is really what first opened my mind. When he had those bad media stories come out about grabbing women and other things, I was like, dude, he's done. He's done. Like nobody recovers from that, right? Like there's no, and yet he survived and he survived. And I was like, wait a minute. This is not your typical situation here, right? And it reminded me of the story of George Washington, when I read a book on George Washington, and during the French Indian War, George Washington, they were trying to kill him so many times, right? They were trying to kill him. And in one of the battles, and this story comes up because after the French Indian War, this one chief visited George Washington while he was being a surveyor. So when he wasn't at war, he was a paid surveyor. He was surveying things. And this old Fijian Native American chief wanted to meet George Washington and wanted to shake his hand and told him this story, right? He goes, hey, do you remember this battle at this time at this place? And he goes, yeah. He's like, we had tried to kill you like 4 or 5 times before in different battles. And we finally got this one Intiakula guy that was a sharpshooter. Like this guy was like, he never misses, right? And so the whole point was have a battle so that they could have George Washington come through. And the whole point was just to kill him. It was just to shoot him. So they were hiding. They weren't even in the battle. They were hiding and they picked the spot so that they could kill him. The Intiakula guy, so it's him, the chief, and a couple French guys. The sharpshooter lines up George Washington, shoots, right? And the shooter goes, looks at his gun, takes out his gun, cleans it, checks a couple things, lines up again, shoots. And then the French guy's like, why can't you hit him? And the Intiakula guy, the sharpshooter, packs up his gun and walks away. And they're like, what are you doing? Why are you walking away? And the guy goes, that guy shouldn't be alive. Both shots should have killed him. And he and because he's Native American, right? He's like, the Great Spirit's protecting that guy. It doesn't matter what we do. We need to walk away because this guy, there's something going on besides the normal circumstances, right? So when I saw it like once, you're kind of like, oh, dude, he got lucky. I don't know how he survived that. Then it was like twice, and then the third time, and then I was like, you know what? This is not normal, right? This is something more than just blah blah blah. And then I saw some interesting videos that made some claims, and I was like, you know what? Does the idea of someone like quote unquote Trump, is there any evidence for this in the scriptures? And then you go back to the Old Testament when God calls the Babylonian king or the Assyrian king Cyrus, and God says, I will call my servant blah blah blah, and he will execute my work, and no one will be able to stop him, right?
Because he frees the Jews, right? Because he actually
he comes and conquers, destroys everything, and then he eventually releases the Jews to go and do his work. And in my mind, and this guy was not a nice guy, right? He would cut people's heads, he would torture people, and he would put them, like, intimidate people, right, in battle. And so I was like, you know what? there's something to this guy. So I was a little bit more hopeful. I wouldn't say I was all bought in, right? I was like, okay. Yeah. But once he got into office, I watched his behavior, and I'm like, and I even for me personally, whether I made it up in my mind or not, I saw a change in his behavior when he got into office, because I think he realized, holy smokes, I'm the only one who can fight for the American people, right? Just like I felt like I saw a change after he got shot in the ear. Like homeboy, I think, was like, holy crap, the only reason why I'm alive is because someone interfered, because he should not be alive. Anyways, that's my long story to say I wasn't a Trump fan, but observing and seeing what's happening, I'm like, dude, I can't deny what I'm seeing. Like, this shouldn't be happening. So right now, I'm a pretty good Trump fan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right on. I was just thinking while you were telling that story, as far as Samuel the Lamanite, right?
Oh yeah, the arrows. Yeah.
Right. If this Indian guy, you know how we pass down stories from generation to generation. If that was a story that became a myth and a legend, that if the arrows miss, then the Great Spirit's protecting them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when you were telling that story about the Indian, I was like, I wonder if that story passed all the way down to this. This.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's a healthy respect to understand there's our limitations of flesh,
right,
in the physical world, right? Like, if you really believe in science, in my opinion, you cannot doubt God, in my opinion. Because if you understand how the physical world behaves, and then you see what's happened in the physical world, you're like, something more happened. My example is this. You would never be walking in the Amazon and found an iPhone and then say, oh, the rocks just smashed into each other for 1,000,000 years and created an iPhone. It's like, anybody who would tell me that story, you would hear that and be like, yeah, that's just stupid. That's how I feel about how people describe how life came to be. Well, the elements just kept smashing in each other, and then all of a sudden a little thing came out, and then a bigger thing came out, and then here we are. I'm like, Shanna, do you really believe that? Just go smash some rocks and see if you'll get the Empire State Building. Like, do you really believe that? Like, do you understand just simply that is, in theory, doesn't make sense, in my opinion? Now, granted, there's a lot of other smarter people who think the other way, but I'm just like, dude, you don't smash rocks for 1,000,000 years and then all of a sudden get an iPhone.
Right.
No, also it just made me go back to there's a common thing that's kind of going out there when they say, the whole ocean and they're creating the genealogy. It's like, come on, we didn't come from freaking seaweed mixed with soil from the land that's kind of drifting on the ocean, and then creates land, and then the land creates human being. Like, come on. That's what happens. That's what happens when you don't go church for a while. You start having all these theories, man. No, I'm just like, it's crazy, and like people are like, oh, this is the genealogy of how Tonga became to be, and people is like, come on, nah.
Maybe from your village, but not mine.
Maybe your village, maybe your Kainga told you that story or whatever. It's like, but I don't know. That's just my, when you were explaining that to it with the things don't make sense. We hit rocks together. It's like, nah, man.
Yeah, I still hear people talk about Maui Fusfonua, right? And then I would ask them, what did that guy do? And they would say the same thing. Oh yeah, he's the one that, with the fish hook and pulled the island up out of the ocean. And I was like, all right, now think about that. Right? Is that really freaking possible? He's like, nah, dude, it's in our history. It's in our. I was like, I know it is, but just think about it real quick. How does the islands get there? And you're right, but something.
Well, see, and that's the thing.
Believing.
To me, it's a lack of two things: understanding of reality and recognizing your own environment. Right? When we go watch Avengers, we don't sit there and say, that really happened, right? We don't sit there and say, oh my gosh, Thanos could snap his fingers and we could all die. Like that's a existential threat to our existence, right? Instead, someone who's honest to themselves or understands reality and understands life can sit back and say, that story is a representation of a reality. But what is that reality, right? That reality is dictators and communism leads to people getting killed. Like there's always a thread of reality, just like those stories of like Maui Fusfonua. It's like there literally could have been a Maui Fusfonua, but he wasn't around causing tectonic activity. You know what I mean? There are more reasonable ways to be like, oh, our ancestors really believed in that, and that's how we really happened. It's like, no, you can sit back and say, hey, you know, there's probably a reason why they believe that. And we can look at other pieces of data and be like, oh, there's Maui Fusfonua, and there's a giant stone structure in Tonga called Hamonga Maui.
I understand from that time. From that time, you know, wherever this story came from, I understand from that time they didn't know, and it had to be a great story of a god. That sounds, you know, because they couldn't have known or proved it. So I understand from that time. But now it's like, all right, can we get over this already or what? You know what I mean? So
oh Yahweh. No, 100%. Guys, I have not been paying attention, and we are flooded with comments. I try to stay, I am well behind. I will try and do a better job moving forward. But this kind of comment is the one that caught my eye. What the heck is going on in California? Water bears. I don't know what kind of Taco Bell you're eating, but when you eat Taco Bell, you don't need to pull anything out. It shoots out. So I don't know what kind of Taco Bell you're eating there, Water Bears. See, this is what happens when you make those kind of comments, Water Bears.
The legend is going to begin. This guy pulled a freaking island.
All right. Hey, here's we're looking on time here. Here's another interesting video I found, and we'll listen into it. And this goes back to, and this is because of the times that we're in, and like we're talking about in the politics, there's propaganda going everywhere. Traditional channels of information are, for the best way to say it, is unreliable right now. Right. We really have to change the way we view the world, the way we think, how we judge information, and how we perceive the world. And I think this is, at least for me, this was an interesting video that brings in new information that totally changes how I perceived what I thought we knew about South Africa. Let me take it off of mute and press play here. Oh, I'm clicking on the wrong screen.
Black people are not the original inhabitants of South Africa, which, in fact, they're realizing that now. When they claimed that they owned all the land, the original inhabitants, of who there are not many left, said, excuse me, we were the original inhabitants. You guys were migrants here as well, which they were. Okay, the original inhabitants of Southern Africa are called the Khoisan. In the West, the Bushmen are Khoisan. Hottentots are Khoisan. But you can't use those words anymore. You know, I just call them Khoisan. Okay? All right. Now, and they were the inhabitants of the whole of Southern Africa. So the whole of South Africa at one stage were Khoisan. The black people originated in what is now Cameroon. That's where they...
Hold on, Khoisan aren't black?
No.
What are they?
They're a completely separate ethnicity all on their own. In fact, if you look at them, they're kind of yellowy. They're a light brown yellow color, right. But they look more Asian than African. They do not consider themselves African.
Interesting.
When the white guys arrive in Cape Town, so 1652 is when Dutch guys arrived there. At that stage, you could have divided South Africa almost exactly 50-50, what's now South Africa. The western half of the country was entirely Khoisan. There were no black people there. None at all. Only Khoisan. So we're Cape Towners, all that area, Khoisan people. The northern part of the country did have black people. They'd started arriving, and they were still migrating.
How long have they been there in the northern?
Well, it's a moot point, and people have debated it. It would seem that black people had probably started arriving in the northern parts of South Africa maybe 1,000 years. something like about 1,000 years before whites got there, right up in the north. Okay, and they've been slowly moving south because it's an empty space. I mean, one of the things about Africa is it's very empty. Up until the 1950s, Africa was very empty. It's the population exploded because white colonists, the naughty white colonists, put hospitals there, and there's been this huge population explosion since the 1950s. But Africa was really very empty up until then. And so tribes moved around and just occupied new empty territory. So the guys coming down from the north, who called the Bantus, it's called the Bantu expansions, when black people came out of the Cameroons, they'd been occupying South Africa and moving systematically south, down the east coast.
They were
of South
pastoralists, am I right?
Yeah, they were pastoralists, yeah. Whereas the Khoisan were hunter-gatherers. They were like aboriginals, okay, so they hadn't become pastoralists yet. The black guys are migrating down from the north and settling, doing exactly what white guys are doing. So white guys, the Dutch guys from Cape Town, were settling by moving eastwards. So the white guys are moving from Cape Town eastwards, and the black guys are moving down from the north. And they met at a place called the Fish River, which is now in the middle of South Africa, at a place called, it's still called border. Everybody in South Africa calls that part of the country the border, even though there's no border there at all anymore. But it was a river called the Fish River, which is where blacks and whites first encountered each other. And then it started 100 years of warfare between whites and the Xhosa, who were the tribe that they met there. So, okay, so at that point, that would have been in the 1700. So whites and blacks first encountered each other in 1700. Okay, so whites had already been there for 100 years at that.
So
interesting.
Yeah, I don't know how accurate it is, right? It could be accurate, it could be not, but that's not the point for me. The point here is new information changes everything, right? And that there is an important way to look at things and having a proper perspective, being willing to at least consider a different idea, consider a different perspective, because it changes the way you view. Like, for example, how do we know that someone is the original, or a group of people are the original people on a piece of land? We can't, right? We literally just can't, because we don't know who owned it before them, like this Khoisan people, right?
Yeah.
He's talking about like, 1,000 years ago. The more we're looking at human history, I just saw this maybe a few months ago, just up the street here in Texas. They found a human footprint on top of a dinosaur footprint, right? And people are like, what the heck's going on here? Right? Because the whole theory is dinosaurs and humans were like, yes. And what I'm getting to is, let's say, and they're saying millions of years, let's not even go to millions of years. Let's just go 50,000 years. Who knows? He's only talking about a couple thousand years. Who are the people before the Khoisan? There could have been civilizations that have lived and died many times over before that. I mean, we were having conversations about there's a possibility that the Ha'among has been there for 50,000 years, right? Just with the weathering on the limestone. And we're looking in the Americas, we're looking in the world, like the way human history is, we have no idea what really is reality. And we have to be open to the fact that our perception of reality could be wrong, and we have to figure out how we navigate that. That's the reason why I bring that up, is that's how I feel the political landscape is today, not just in the United States. The United States is kind of high profile, but I think you've seen it in your neck of the woods, Mussy in New Zealand, right? Similar things. The landscape is kind of crazy, but in order to hopefully make the best decision we can, we have to be open to as many ideas as possible. Any thoughts on that, or the video itself?
Yeah, no, I do have a question. I thought Zulu occupied that South African territory. Like, where is he at? Because
Zulu, I'll ask our buddy Grok here.
Yeah, because that was my understanding, that the Zulu, and I'm thinking Zulu is a black ethnic background. So I was like, I thought he was there, and he's had some fights with some of the Westerners. So I was really surprised with that information that guy shared, because my thoughts were Zulu was like the king of the region of that area. But yeah, that's my question on that, just regarding that video.
Any thoughts? Oh, here, let me pull this up. Let me share this real quick. So it looks like, I deleted it. Great, Tua. It looks like, I think he mentioned the guy mentioned this, where he mentioned like the Bantu coming up from the north and coming down. So he says the Zulu are Bantu ethnic group of Southern Africa and the largest ethnic group in South Africa with an estimated 10 to 12 million. Historically, the Zulu kingdom was a powerful state in Southern Africa. 17 to 1800s. Around the same time frame. This guy was talking before that.
Yes, he said 1700. That's probably the first interaction with whites and blacks. So that Zulu must have been from the northern. His territory didn't reach all the way to that southern part of Cape Town and to the end of South Africa that we know today, but it was that northern side of Africa. That must be his people. So that's interesting. Okay.
Oh yeah. So here's where he was saying, I guess, a little, hey, look, we're mainstream media, some fact checking. Says that the Khoisan are considered among the first inhabitants of Southern Africa, with genetic archaeological evidence suggesting their ancestors might have been in the region for over 150,000 years.
Possibly earlier. Interesting.
So yeah, see here, the genetic, they don't say that they're of African descent. They just say that show a high degree of genetic diversity, indicating they might have been one of the largest human populations for much of human history before other populations expanded. Interesting.
Yeah. No, that's pretty cool information. That's all I had. I was like, okay, it makes sense. So that's Zulu from Cameroon all the way down to that northern part of South Africa today before they start coming south, and then they met. And I didn't realize that the Palangis were there in the 1600s. That's pretty early and long. So I can see their claim to there, because it was open space, because they're probably they're more directly interaction was having more with that. Was it the Koshan people? Khoisan, which were not part of the black ancestry.
And that's one of the challenges of the reparations / victim mentality, right? Because there's always someone there before you, and before where do we stop? At some point, we all gotta just say we look to the future.
Right.
Any more thoughts or comments on that? And then I think we'll do like one more or two more videos before we do some closing thoughts.
No, I'm good with no. It's learn something new. Learn something new with that one. I'm good with that video.
I think that's why it's important, the record keeping thing throughout history, as far as the Bible being if we don't look at it as a scripture, we look at it as a record of history,
historical book. Yeah.
I think that was so key for anybody not to veer off of the information, the true information. Because when I thought about these places, and I've heard that polys are from the Lapita people, or they found DNA in Africa or DNA in Mesopotamia or Southeast Asia or the Middle East. Then you have this book, right? That basically tells us that we actually are from here. We migrated from the Americas, but before then they came from the Middle East, and those guys came from Southeast Asia, and those guys were enslaved in North Africa. So it's like, so we could have been there at some point in time. We just don't come directly from there. right?
Yeah.
Okay, I get that. I can go. I can rock with that. You found our DNA everywhere, but don't tell us our story. Oh, this is where you're from. This is where you're from. Well, if you found our DNA there, don't tell our story. Let us try to figure it out. We'll let you know what it is, right? What we come up
Yeah.
with.
I just want to warn you, though, Lolo, that at the end of the day, if you go deep enough, you'll find out that you're just seaweed and settlement dust in the lagoon. I just want to warn you. That's where Mussie's great grandfather was a floating seaweed.
Dude, that's a shit. Lahi te di aki lotu, man. Shit, funky cowboy, yeah. Hey, I'm always fine when you riaki lotu and stuff. There's some days I don't want to go, but this is riaki lotu at Taulai.
No, ogu kehe ai riaki lotu muy he te volo.
Okay,
there's a big gap. There's a big gap.
I like
you know?
I like how you differentiate.
Yeah, we have to go riaki lotu. Yeah, it's like we all riaki lotu every once in a while. Those who are like, hey, go fair Lucifer, go fair mau e kupui for today. That's a different one.
Okay.
Actually, I think I'm gonna try and find this this video real quick. Let me see here. But yeah, any other thoughts while I just kind of look this up real quick for our last video?
No. I think Lolo brought a good point. I mean, we could come from here, but I believe we come from the Americas, but like people from the Americas could have come from the Middle East, area, and like it could, it's just very interesting, and that's why when you do your DNA check, you could be somebody who's full Caucasian, then you still have some ancestry to Africa, that can be so like yeah. To find our origin, that's just a data point, but you're gonna have to really dig in to figure out exactly the origin of your people. So, good points. Good points.
Okay, I'm just waiting for the commercial to play through in the background here because there's two videos I want to share to close us out. And as always, there's always. I'm pretty sure it's Inclease Fleas creating another account trying to talk about Tuimanua.
Hey, we have to admire his
diligence.
His diligence and his perseverance. Hey, you gotta do what you have an idea you want to get out there. Even though we've addressed it 1,000 times, killing the dead horse, but still, those are the Kumala voters right there. people like Increase, please. No matter how many times you say, don't touch this, don't touch that, because of this, because of that, and the reason being, and they still do it. It's like, dude,
they don't care.
They don't care. It is what it is. That's the Kumala people.
Yes, 100%. So I'm gonna show this video, and then we have a backup video to it. But this is, you guys will recognize the play, and then I want to prep it, and then we're gonna see the last one to kind of break it down for us and close out the show for today.
He's got Bolden and Fitzgerald to the left. He's got Preston to the right. 18 seconds. Well, they can pick down here from the gun. Steelers show blitz. Here they come. He gets it away, and it's picked off at the goal line. There's a flag thrown on the run back. James Harrison to run it back, and Harrison is past midfield. Harrison going down the sideline. Harrison still on his feet. Harrison is going to go all the way and waiting for the official to get there. Touchdown is signaled. A flag is down on the run back at the 9-yard line.
Roughing the passer. That's my guess if I was watching football. Or cut block.
Personal foul. Grasping the face mask. Offense number 74. The foul occurred during the last time down. The touchdown counts.
Unbelievable. Harrison completely gassed. The call is
so we're gonna watch a follow-up video on Harrison, right? So this is what everybody looks at and remembers, and like, man, Harrison's the man. What a great life. You know what I mean? It's like looking at the billionaire and be like, wow, easy life, blah, blah, blah. Right. We all see the bright lights and the cool stuff, but we don't always see the reality. And here's a quick snippet on reality, right? And before you even get to this, there's a lot of bumpy roads, there's a lot of issues, there's a lot of despair, a lot of challenges, and I just want to kind of show that difference in this. So we'll watch this part here.
Free agent quickly made an impression in Steelers camp.
He had a nickname right off the bat, and his first nickname with the Steelers was 2-Day Vet.
I don't even know why they gave me that. Why they say they gave me that?
Because that's kind of how he approached it. He rolled in there like a veteran, and he'd only been there for like 2 days. But I remember him going up to someone on the machine, a veteran, and being like, "Get off my machine."
Brett lying. You know, Brett go exaggerate.
2-Day Vet. Always had something quick to say back to the coaches. Like, it was a day of practice. He intercepted the ball, and Tim Lewis like, "Run to the end zone." He was like, "Oh, is that what I'm supposed to do with it?" So me, Gilda, and everybody, we laughing like, this guy gonna get cut.
That attitude that they were getting, that was more of a defense mechanism because I didn't know what the hell I was doing. So instead of it being like, "Oh, I don't know what I'm doing," I'm like, "Yeah."
Let's go right there. Perimeter play action. Let's go. Let's go.
My first OTAs, the play starts and I go freeze, brain dead. I throw my hands up. I'm like, "Hey, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Get me out of here." Like in the middle of the play.
And just stop. Well, don't stop. If in the middle of a play, you can't just stop because you made a mistake.
You shouldn't be making those mistakes. Let's go.
Then he would take himself out. Where are you going? I don't know what I'm doing yet. You can't just take yourself out of a game.
Back in the huddle. Back in the huddle. Let's go. Get the snap.
And the way he responded earlier, just quitting on things, kind of just like, I don't think this guy's ever going to get it.
Harrison was among the final cuts and spent the 2002 season on the practice squad. In 2003, he returned to Steelers camp, but was cut twice in 3 weeks. Near the end of the 2003 season, he was signed by the Baltimore Ravens.
Number 53, James Harrison.
And sent to play for the Rhine Fire in NFL Europe. The Ravens brought him to camp in 2004, but released him after just a few days. In 3 attempts to make an NFL roster, James Harrison had been cut a total of 4 times.
So I just sat around that whole offseason, and I was like, if I don't get, picked up, after this, then it's just not meant to be. Ain't in the cards for me. I'm cool with it. Just get a regular job like everybody else. Put in your 40, 50, 60 hours a week, whatever it is, get your paycheck, and, keep it moving.
But the long shot free agent quickly made an impression.
Any thoughts? I wanted to show that contrast, right? Super Bowl glory. Everybody sees this guy as a staple starter, always a legend. And then when you hear the background, wasn't always so shiny. But any thoughts on that?
No, I did hear some stories that he was like cut a couple times, but I didn't know that he was actually picked up by the Ravens, and the Ravens kind of gave him a shot. Got cut from there. And then was that Canadian League? He was
No, it's European NFL.
Oh, European NFL. I didn't know that was. Is that still going on now?
No, it's dead. It's dead. That's why I'm not. We've had this debate with talking with Lee. I'm not.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
I'm not just because we sold tickets for one game every year in Germany in 2 seconds. That doesn't mean you can set up a whole league over there. Because they've tried that already.
Yeah. No. I mean, that's. I think just like everything, you can have all the skills, but sometimes you need a little luck here and there. A luck mostly happens to people who actually keep trying, and put the best effort forward and try to do what's right. So usually luck usually falls your way most of the time. But yeah, hey, good on Harrison, man. I remember watching him. He was a killer, man. Those days.
100%. Any thoughts, Lolo? Any thoughts on the videos?
Yeah, I don't know who that is, but I bet he's a Trump guy. There's somebody that understands that fail, keep going until you make it. I mean, that's the main thing is win. You love winning. So yeah, he's a lot of stories are like that, right? A lot of going through it, and that's all. Maybe that's all they know. Because he was saying, if not, I'll just go work 40, 50 hours. So he's talking about getting a regular job. So some of them is like, well, I'm at the end. This is the end right here. It's either make it or don't, and there's a last chance. So I'm glad he made it in there at last chance.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting, especially kind of his mentality. I seen other videos when he was like super popular, and they always portrayed him as like super hardworking. You know what I mean? Always working hard, always in the gym, which is true, right? You have to do that. But there were two things that I thought that are interesting. I don't care how successful or not successful you are. You can't blame yourself for your total failure or for your total success, right? I'm a big, like even him, right? He was like, well, I was about to give up anyway, right? But then he had pushed at least long enough that it paid off for him. And really what I'm getting to is this, and I've really been thinking about this lately, where sometimes we get carried away, like, oh man, I gotta make the perfect choice. I gotta make the right choice. You know what I mean? Should I be on the left side of the street or the right side of the street? Because I gotta make sure I get this right. And to me, when you look at people's lives and you look at your life, the truth is, man, control is an illusion, right? We can't even guarantee we'll be alive 2 hours from now. And yet we think we can plan a business or a Pro Bowl team or a Super Bowl team. These things are in many ways we have no control over. We can do some things to increase our probabilities, but what I'm getting to this, at the end of the day, everyone has 2 feet. Everyone has, 2 hands. We all have a brain. We are all equal. We're not the same, but we're all equal, and we're subject to life. And in my humble opinion, try hard, do your best, and the rest is out of your control. And I believe in God, right? I believe you do your best and you leave it up to God. And if you are doing what you should be doing, God will take care of the rest. And whatever that will be is what it is. Kind of like him, right? He's like, dude, I've given everything. Somebody will come to you and say, hey, you want $1 million? My immediate response is, at what cost? Or at what's the alternative? Right? And when we look at politics, I'm looking at Kamala Harris and I say, what's the cost to me if Kamala Harris is president? Okay, I try to understand that. And then I look at Donald Trump being president and what's the cost to me? And I'm way more comfortable with the Donald Trump cost. If I do the worst case scenario of Donald Trump versus the worst case scenario of Kamala, me personally, I'm picking Donald Trump in my opinion. That's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at groceries. I got kids. I'm looking at the cost of money, right? How much it costs. The interest rates are skyrocketing. I'm looking at wars around the world. I'm looking at chaos. I look at everything and I'm like, how would I not pick Donald Trump? Which is why it's a struggle for me to really kind of try and sympathize or empathize with someone who's voting for Kamala. It's a challenge for me, to be honest, because I've always tried to give benefit of the doubt, but for this one, I'm just like, I'm really struggling. And yeah, those are some thoughts there. We'll go with closing thoughts, Masi, then Rolo, and then we'll close out for the day.
I have a quick question, Tua. Like, what are your thoughts on, like, they're good attending people to church and they do their thing, but they vote, like, this is the LDS saying, but they're voting Kamala. Like, well, how do you like explain that? Like, make that make sense to me, Tua. Like,
I'm struggling with that.
Yeah, how do you make sense? Like, it's, I don't know. You get somebody who, you see they're doing what they're supposed to do with the whole church stuff, and looks like they're okay and stuff, but they vote. They're saying with their intention they're gonna vote Kamala, and you're like, okay, that's off. I mean, to me, I don't know if you can explain, like, what's the rationale for them to don't vote Trump but vote Kamala. They're just listening to they're just easily followers of, like, they perceive that mainstream is the legitimate source for information, and they think that what they're doing is with good intentions, and Trump is with bad intentions, and Kamala's true intentions sound much better, and they give it the benefit. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just help me make sense with
I
that.
mean, that's a very I struggle with that same question as well, right? And there's a couple things that come to mind. You're overly blessed, right? Because one would say to them, forget about politics, right? Just look at your life. I notice a lot of people who have financial stability, inflation's not really hurting them, right? You look at quote unquote immigration and the crime, they're in neighborhoods that are not really impacted.
Gated community or something.
Exactly.
Or high up in the mountains yeah.
Honestly, that's the best benefit of the doubt I can give, because if I take away the temporal blessings that they have, if I remove it from them, all of a sudden those people just wake up real quick. And you know how I know that's true, Masi?
Yeah. What?
Martha's Vineyard and the illegals that were sent there.
Okay.
Right? They were pro-immigration, open everything, but the moment that a bunch of illegals from Florida were sent there, it was heck no. This is why I don't believe that they really believe what they say, right? Because if someone really believed it when they were sent over, they would say, you know what? We said we wanted them. We're going to welcome them with open arms. So to me, the best benefit of the doubt I can give is you are so temporally blessed and disconnected from some of the challenges of the world. The best benefit of the doubt is mahalo, it's time for a little reminder. But that's the only thing I can think of, Masi, because doctrinally, reality check for a middle-class person across the board, that's the best benefit of the doubt. The other one is you just don't want to know the truth. And that's why I'm saying that's the best benefit of the doubt I can give personally.
They get caught up. It's, get caught up with the whole, thinking just doing whatever they're in their phase of doing their spiritual callings or whatever. And it's just, I don't know. It's a bit weird, a little bit out of reality, a little bit, maybe. They don't think it's important.
You know what it sounds like? It sounds like the Kurisi reaction. They are the ones, the LDS that vote Democrat. I feel like they feel like they're the ones in the Sotejinas.
Yes.
And everybody else is Sotelanque. Hey, you guys go out and watch us dance. We're they're almost blinded by self-righteousness so bad that they'll,
see,
and then play sex on the beach.
Yes. Yeah. It's the Zoramites, right? You had the poor people build the synagogue, and then once they got what they wanted from the poor people, they said, get out of the city. Right? And we're gonna go pray in the synagogue. We're gonna benefit from the sacrifices that you made. It's it's that's why I said the best you can give, from my opinion, is you are so blessed that you're disconnected from reality. And that's being nice, in my opinion, because the reality is you are still in denial, right? Because you can see things and you can hear other people suffering and observe, and at least ask yourself, oh, if all of those people that are at the border were brought into my community living next to me, would I be happy with that? You know, I don't know. That's no, yeah, but I agree 100% with what Lolo said.
Yeah, no, that's yeah. Oh, go ahead, Lolo.
You know what you were saying, Musty was saying earlier. Shoot, I lost my train of thought. Go ahead.
Oh no, that was just part. That was just part of my just closing remarks, because I was like, dude, just make it make sense. I don't get it, but I think you're right. It does take, like, people, they don't want to look for truth, because I do find they're a little bit out of touch with reality. They just say, oh, I just go do my job and whatever it is, but church is the whole thing and just do that. And they don't know that, dude. It's almost, and I remember talking about at church that the only reason why we come to church is because we have freedoms to have freedom to worship. Once with that freedom to worship that is taken away, there's no really church. Like, I don't. There's really nothing you can do to have an organized assembly. We can congregate all the time. So that's why I find, and there are many, and there's quite a few, many of those people who are in this reality that it's like, it's almost like a fake one too. I don't know. You know what I kind of mentioned with Hokama? It's not. It's like they don't understand that literally your freedom is a really thin line, and if you do not support people who are like just for basic freedoms, like Trump is for basic freedom, it's not having more government to kind of tell you what to do. That is like, dude, you're a bit you don't really understand that. That's why I was just asking that question, just regarding that. But yeah, that's just very interesting, and it's getting close. 3.5 weeks left, and then we'll find out. And looking forward to it. And thank you, Dua, for the platform. Thank you, Lolo, for
I
joining
remember
us.
what I was going to say.
Okay, go ahead.
Masi was talking about how it's okay to be rich and wealthy as long as you don't forget God, right? And we know from the scriptures, the promises made to Lehi and them was, you inherit this property. You inherit as long as you're righteous. No matter how prosperous you get, how rich you get, as long as you're righteous, it's all yours, right? And as soon as they forget God, that's what happens, right? So it starts to sneak in and seep in evil and perversions of all kinds, and the strong or the righteous get weaker and weaker, and then eventually, what you have is the remnants of what was once a great nation, that the Palangis come and discover the leftover people that were already here, but they don't know that this leftovers, or wherever the Native Americans or Indians came from, a great nation that was righteous. And if we're not careful, it'll just all run back, and it'll turn right back into that.
Yeah. This is not a new show, not a new movie. This is a one that's been seen before. Any closing thoughts, Lolo?
No. Thanks. It was a great discussion, and thanks for having me. Hopefully do it again.
Yes, sir. Hopefully November 5th or shortly after. Hopefully we're having one, a positive one, right? I mean, at the end of the day, if, I'm preparing myself in a couple different ways in case, things don't roll the way I would like and the cookie doesn't crumble how I prefer.
Right.
I'm getting prepared because I really believe what I believe, right? I really believe if Kumala wins, there's going to be negative consequences, and I'm trying to gear myself up to get ready for that, right? And I'm really hoping that Uncle Donald wins, but I also know God is God, and He's the only one that can guarantee anything. And I'm trying to prepare myself in the case that Auntie Kumala wins, because stranger things have happened. I mean, I thought 2020 was absolutely strange, right? Like that don't seem right. It didn't look right. It don't feel right. So I'm saying that ain't right. So we've seen strange things happen before. Want to thank all the viewers and the listeners. I will do a better job on staying on track with the comments. Love seeing the activity. I missed a ton of comments today. I'll try and do better in the future. We do get a lot of messages on a schedule for the digital Kava sessions. Unfortunately, because it's the night gig and the bills don't get really covered with this, it's kind of whenever we're able to do so. But we are working on a couple of interviews, recordings to release, and really thank the viewers for suggestions. Right, Masi?
Yeah.
I think one of the ones that we're working to lock down is we kept seeing a specific name popping up for interviews. We're working on that. And as always, every like, share, comment does go a long way. And our philosophy, as always, stay curious, ask the hard questions, and be bold. And until next time, mahalo, and see you later.
Peace.
Peace.